Welcome everybody to Read to You 365, where we read to you books about you. My name's Cristal, and I'd like to read to you today. Today's story is entitled Stacey's Extraordinary Words by Stacey Abrams, illustrated by Kit Thomas. But first, let's look at all the pictures. Vocabulary: instantaneous, when something happens immediately. But don't give up if it doesn't. Most things take time and lots of practice. Except, not including, not to be mixed up with accept, where you do receive something. Defeated, won in a competition. Weirdly, it can also mean losing. Petrified, really, really afraid. It can also mean when something is converted into stone. Perseverance, always willing to try again and never give up. One of my favorite words. Stacey's Extraordinary Words by Stacey Abrams, illustrated by Kit Thomas. To my first storytellers, Mom and Dad. To my bibliophile siblings all. And to our newest generation of readers, Jordan, Faith, Cameron, Ryan, Aaron, and Devin. S.A. To those I love most, Mom, Dad, my brother Desmond, and Garfield, the little cat who saved my life. K.T. Stacey loved words. She loved to read them and write them and say them. She adored fun words, long words, unusual words, words with wonderful histories and weird combinations. Whenever Stacey learned a new word, it was like making a new friend. First, she would find the dictionary. Then, she would look up where the word had come from and learn its secrets. Did any of its letters hide and stay quiet? Like the P in ptarmigan, a bird that lives in cold northern regions. Or were they strong, like the I in bright? Next, she wrote the word in her special notebook of extraordinary words. She practiced how to arrange the letters just right, how to sound them out. That's because she loved spelling interesting words most of all. onomatopoeia. Pop. With her favorite words, she would try to remember their quirks, what made them special. When she saw a surprising word like onomatopoeia, a funny word to describe the sound of other words, she had to jump and sway. Words like duckling made her grin. Persnickety tickled her tongue. Sometimes, Stacey thought that words understood her better than people. When she sat by herself during recess, they never teased her about being quiet, or about being clumsy when she fell, or awkward when the joke in her head came out wrong. When she read books under the covers, words never told her to go to sleep. Words understood why she was grumpy or anxious. In fact, words helped her explain what she was feeling, if only to herself. One day, Stacey's teacher, Miss Blakesley, asked her to wait after class. She squirmed in her seat because she was afraid. Petrified, another way to say really, really afraid. Usually, the teacher only kept students after class because of a blunder, a mistake. Miss Blakesley called Stacey to her desk, and she returned her spelling test. A big red 100 sat at the top of the page. The teacher asked her, "Do you know what a spelling bee is?" "A really smart insect?" Stacey joked. The teacher smiled. A spelling bee is a contest where students compete to spell as many words correctly as they can. I would like for you to participate. Stacey couldn't believe it. Who else will be there? I am nominating you and Jake. The spelling bee is next week. Stacey's excitement suddenly evaporated. Jake was not her friend. He was a bully who knew words too. Just yesterday, he had used a complicated word that made Suki cry. Last week, she heard him say something cruel to Zvanko about his accent. Stacey thought it was stupendous that Zvetko knew words in 2 different languages. Stacey knew as many words as Jake did. She wanted to say something when he said mean things to her friends, but she was intimidated, scared, because sometimes he said hurtful things to her too. She wished she had used her clever words to help Suki and Zvetko, or herself by speaking up. Perhaps at this spelling bee, she would be braver. At the spelling bee, she would not be silent. All week long, Stacey studied her spelling words from school and the ones she kept in her notebook. Sesquipedalian. Still, the spelling bee felt as far away as the longest word she had ever seen. Sesquipedalian. A fancy way to describe words with lots of syllables. monotonous, torturous, sluggish. The days of the week were monotonous, torturous, and sluggish. Every hour felt longer and longer. Stacey wished for the week to whisk its days away. Finally, the morning of the spelling bee arrived. Stacey walked into the county library with her mother, holding her hand tight. Mama gave her a big hug and whispered into her ear, "Just do your best. Your dad and I are very proud of you." Stacey followed her teacher to the room where the other students were waiting until it was time to go. Then they went on to a stage. The announcer explained the rules. Kids stepped up to the microphone one by one to get their word. If they spelled it right, the announcer told them so. But if they made a mistake, a bell would ring. The student would have to leave the stage. No do-overs. Stacey's turn finally came. Her stomach ached with nervous energy, but she was ready. Say the word. Dither. Sound it out. Dither. Spell it. D-I-T-H-E-R. Dither. That is correct. The announcer called on the next student, and the next. Promptly, enormous, shutter, transportation, craggy, reception, village. Finally, only 3 contestants remained, Stacey and Jake and a girl from another school. The girl went up to spell her word. Ding! She had spelled chocolate without the second O. We are down to our final 2 contestants, the announcer told the audience. Jake took a long time to spell accept. Stacey got squeezed, but she remembered the lost letters she adored, like Q and Z. Jake tackled clamoring. Stacey conquered disengage. Then Jake defeated geometry. Stacey returned to the podium, ready to do battle with her next word. She repeated it. She pronounced it. She spelled it. INSTANTANIOUS. Instantaneous. As she waited for the announcer, the bell dinged. I'm sorry, that was incorrect. The proper spelling is... Stacey couldn't hear the rest of what he said. Tears filled her eyes, but she stayed on stage like a good sport as Jake got his trophy and she received her second place ribbon. Everyone congratulated Jake, and so did she. Good job. Jake laughed and rolled his eyes. At least I know the difference between I and E. Stacey felt embarrassed, but she refused to let Jake make her cry. Well, I misspelled my word, but I do know how to be courteous. You should try it." She turned away and went to find her mom. If today were like one of the stories Stacey loved most, she would have won. And Jake would have learned that words were a gift that shouldn't be used to hurt people. But things didn't always happen that way in real life. Sometimes change was harder, and it didn't happen right away. Stacey felt a hand brush her cheek. It opened her fist and smoothed out the ribbon. "Mama?" She put a butterscotch candy on top, Stacey's favorite candy. "You okay?" "I lost." "But you came so far. Nearly to the very end." "Not far enough. I got the letter wrong, and I didn't win. I failed." "You only fail if you stop," her mother reminded her. "I know there's a word for that. You know it too." Stacey thought about one of her favorite words: perseverance. Perseverance. Exactly. So let's go home and learn more words. There's always next year. Stacey imagined all the words she had yet to meet. New words and new ways to speak up and help others. She'd find them all. "No, Mama, there's always tomorrow." The end. Stacey Abrams is the 3-time New York Times best-selling author of While Justice Sleeps, Our Time Is Now, and Lead from the Outside. An entrepreneur and a political leader. A tax attorney by training, she served 11 years in the Georgia House of Representatives, 7 as minority leader, and became the 2018 Democratic nominee for governor of Georgia. She has launched multiple organizations developed to voting rights, training and hiring young people of color, and tackling social issues. She is the founder of Fair Fight Action, Fair Count, and Southern Economic Advancement Project. A small business owner, she co-founded the financial services firm Now Corp and SageWorks Productions, Inc., a media company. She has received a degree from Spelman College, the LBJ School of Public Affairs at the University of Texas at Austin, and Yale Law School. Kit Thomas, also known as Caitlin, is a first-generation St. Lucian American author, illustrator, and graduate of the Ringling College of Art and Design, with a BFF in Visual Studies. Kit's mission is to celebrate Black culture with their drawings and to encourage inclusion in all forms of art, as they found it hard to see themselves properly represented in the media they enjoyed growing up. They have worked with such companies as Netflix, Hasbro, and Cartoon Network. Stacey's Extraordinary Words is their debut picture book. This was Stacey's Extraordinary Words by Stacey Abrams. Illustrated by Kit Thomas. I love you. Thanks for watching. This is a CJT production.